So, excuse me, if I'm sounding a little bit raspy, I taught class in the morning. I had two office hours this afternoon. So I've been talking a lot today, but that's okay. So we're here this evening. So do we have any questions, comments, requests, anything?
I have show and tell.
Oh yeah, let's see.
I did my pocket.
Good for you.
Oh, can you see me?
Oh yeah, there you go. Good job.
And I decided to try and put that facing on here.
Okay.
Um, okay, so this is the back part, the facing there. And I see what you're saying about the bulk. The next time I do a sample, I may try number one, not putting the inner facing there
Mhm.
and trimming the seam.
Yes.
Well, it feels sturdy. It feels good.
Mhm.
But I do see what you're saying about the bulk right in there.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it turned out okay.
Well,
I
good.
was pleased.
Yay. So did anyone else do homework or I mean you don't have to if you don't want to. Okay, let's see, Vicky. Let's see. There we go. And you can see, because that's the pocket without the stay, you can kind of see that, if she's kind of holding it up, the pocket gaps open. That is the challenge with those pockets. And that's why if I'm going to be making those pockets in a trouser, especially a pleated trouser, I like to have a stay because then that way your tummy doesn't fill up the pleats and look like a hot air balloon.
Okay, so the thing is does this stay really work? Because I hate these pockets. If I buy a pair of pants, I sew down the pocket because
Yeah,
it's always gapping.
it does work. You're going to get a little bit because just if you bend, it's going to come open a little bit. But see, I tend to use my pockets, the front pockets especially, because I carry my wallet, I carry my phone in my front pocket
Mm.
because I go on the subway and I don't want people snatching anything from a back pocket. If they take something from a back pocket, it's something I don't care about anyway. So the stay does work quite nicely.
Oh, good.
That particular angle, and that's when I learned that little gate, that David Coffin taught me. I thought, now that whoever thought that up was brilliant because so many times I've been in a car, sitting on a sofa or something, and all of a sudden you hear all your change fall out into the sofa cushions. And so having that in those pockets is really quite helpful.
Does the steep angle that you used keep things from gaping as well?
No, the angle it's going to be more likely to gap if you have that angle. If you're working like a jeans pocket that comes like so, because the only thing that's different on a jeans pocket or breast is just the angle of the line. The angle is going to gap a little bit. It's just going to. So if you're worried about the pocket kind of gapping, you could cut it with the jeans like a jeans line. Did that answer your question?
Yes, but jeans pocket shapes would look funny on dress pants.
Not necessarily.
I'll have to try
Because
it and see.
well, what I've seen, and this, I mean, because I'm probably older than you. Back in the 70s, there were a lot of very
I
kind
remember the 70s.
well, I remember there was a certain, it was not a curve, but it was a right angle. It was almost a right angle that, it came down about an inch down from the waistband and then it cut over to the side. That is, it's a similar kind of shape, but it's a little dressier. So I think because I remember seeing these. My mother had a friend whose husband used to wear that kind of trouser. So, and I remember that from the time. So that would be an alternative.
Okay, good. Thank
Okay.
you.
So, other questions? No. So, what we're going to do tonight, this is kind of a long form. So, it's one lesson, but this is the fly front, how to put the fly front in. Where this particular method came from. See, I'm teaching second semester sewing at FIT this semester. And the first time I had to teach second semester sewing, I hadn't put a fly front in since college. I just never, I never did. And so I understood, oh, this has to be easy enough for people who've never done it before. And it has to be easy enough that I can do it. So to give you kind of an idea of, are they here? Let me go. I have to show you this fabric. Or did I show it to you? The blue fabric, did I show you that last week?
Blue and gold, yes.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, yeah. So I can now get a fly front in a trouser in 15 minutes. I've done it so many times, but still. So this particular fly front is the easiest one I can do and the easiest one to teach to other people. And so this, because in the second semester sewing, we're sewing the jacket right now. And so just kind of give you all a little heads up, I have to make a video sewing the ready to wear jacket because I'd like to teach the second semester sewing again because I do like getting kids at this age because you can break some bad habits before they begin, and you can also get them to like sewing a little more than they do because I have some kids who come to me from the first semester, they've been traumatized by a sewing professor, and so I try to, you know, get them a positive experience. So the notch lapel jacket, I'm going to do a video on how to construct the jacket like I do at FIT, which is going to be it's going to be a lot easier. I mean, for like Vicky, you know, with the peak lapel jacket, it's going to be a little easier than that. So this is one of those that if you have some fabric and you're going to make something that you know, it doesn't, because not everything we make has to be like months and months of construction. This particular jacket, one of my students was asking me today how long it would take me to make this jacket if I was just doing it on my own. I said I could get this done in an afternoon. So I have to make the video for them. So I'm going to make it a Zoom video too. So, you know, when it's all done, you will all, you know, we'll set some dates and you'll all get that. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go with the Jessica jacket pattern again, because we've done that in other classes. So, but this fly front, this what we're going to learn tonight. It's kind of a long form. And so as I've always done, you know, I'm going to collapse down the gallery. I'm going to share the screen. And so what I would ask you is to turn your
Excuse me.
hello, Bev, are you there?
I am.
Okay, I just heard you. So what I'm
Okay.
going to ask you to do is, you know, turn off your microphones when we're running the video. But you know, if you have a question, turn your microphone on, give it a shout out. Like before, I can just, you know, stop it and run it back. The usual drill. So if there are
Quick
no,
question
yes, ma'am.
before we go.
Yeah.
Didn't we do the other pocket? Didn't we do that last week?
Good. The
You
pocket with
sent
the
the
snake,
video on
I believe I did. Yeah.
because I didn't see it. I was going to do the other pocket, but I didn't see it.
Oh, that's weird because I know we did both of them.
No, we
Yeah,
did.
I thought we
We
did.
did.
No,
We did.
no, we did
Yes,
not.
we did.
No, we only did one.
Okay.
Two. I remember two.
What do you mean two?
Yeah.
The one with the stay
He
and the
did
one
too,
without.
I showed.
but I didn't see it when he sent the other videos. Did you see it? See both videos?
But you know what I'll do then? I have the little, you know, thing on a file on the big computer, so I can make sure to make that the pocket with the stay that separate
Okay.
gets there too. Yeah, because
Yeah, you only sent us one pocket video in
Okay.
email.
there should be two. So I'll send you the one with the stay this evening with this one, so
Thank
you'll
you.
have everything. Yeah,
Thank you.
because you know it's kind of a bore sometimes if you know slogging through the entire Zoom to try to find things. That's why I send you the separate videos. So yes, thank you
Thank
for
you so much.
bringing that to my attention. Okay, so let's get to it. I'm gonna share, and let me close this down. So yeah, don't be shy with your questions. And we're off and running.
You did say turn off the mics and the video of our sales, right?
Yeah, that would be good because they're, you know, internet and bandwidth and all that sort of thing. I'm told that if, you know, well, as I'm sharing the screen, if you turn off the video, that saves bandwidth as well. So thank you. Okay, So we're off. Front zipper. I just think it's fair to show you before we start where we're going to end up. And so here's our zipper. And unzip here. So there is the zipper shield. And there is the fly facing. And obviously you see the zipper. Now let me turn this over so you can see it from the back. So this is what it looks like from the back. Now, as you imagine, we have a lot of work to do to make this beautiful fly front zipper. So let's get busy. Here we have the pattern pieces for the trouser front. This, of course, is the main body piece. This is what is called the fly facing, and this is what I call the zipper shield. Now, you'll notice when I put those two together, we have a notch there that matches to there. So this, when we cut it in fabric, we're actually going to, if this is the face side up, this will be the face side up. So here we have pattern pieces. Next, the fabric that we have cut from these pattern pieces. So here we have all of our pieces for the front. As you can see here, I've cut one from the zipper shield, and I have fused interfacing on the entire piece. From here, since this side will overlap onto this side, I have cut this piece and I fused on the back because this will end up facing there. So here we have all of our pattern pieces. Next, we want to bring in the zipper. Here is the trouser zipper. And what I would caution you for a zipper, you want a zipper that has some sort of locking mechanism. This here, as you can see, there's a little cleat right there that when you push the slide tab down, the zipper won't come unzipped. Other zippers, you won't have such success. So when you're buying your zipper, you want something that has some sort of locking mechanism. Now, I like the zipper longer than I need it. So here, there is our notch. And the bottom of the notch, as you can see, there's the bottom of the notch where the zipper will end, and it extends up to here. So we'll have to shorten it up here. That is no issue. So now we have all of our parts and pieces. Let's begin construction. Before we begin construction, I want to talk about overlap and underlap. The overlap, for me, I'm lapping left over right. And that is going to be where I'm going to place the fly facing right sides together. The underlap is where the zipper installs first. We'll eventually sew both together, but the first installation of the zipper goes on the underlap. So this is just good to kind of get us oriented. And first, I'm going to construct the overlap. It's quicker, and it also, constructing the overlap eliminates confusion later. Before I install the fly facing, as you can see, I have overlocked the edge. Now, you could do a bound edge if you really, really wanted to, but for this particular lesson, we're finishing that edge with an overlock. Now, also, you want to look for the clip, because this clip here matches that clip there. So match those two. And then we're going to pin straight up here. Now, this fusible is on the lengthwise grain, so it will stay that edge, so you don't have to worry about stretching so much. So now what I will do is to take this over to the machine. I'm going to begin the stitch right at the clip and sew at a 5/8 inch seam, and then I will meet you at the pressing table. So here we are at the pressing table. We press as sewn, and then I'm going to clip right to that end of that row of stitching. I back tacked there, so I want that to free up, because the next step we're going to do is we are going to press the seam allowances towards the fly facing. Like so. Now what I will, sorry about that, what I will do here then is I'm going to go back to the machine and I will edge stitch right along that edge and then bring you back the results. So I'm back. As you can see, I started the stitch right at the clip and sewed all the way up. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to give it a press, and then I'm going to trim out the seam allowance closer to the facing. So press first, as always. And then grade this seam down. You can take this down to, I'd say, about 1/4 inch or so. You want to remove some of that bulk there. So now that that's graded, what we want to do is to press this back. And when we press it back, we'll favor it back slightly. And it will look like that. From here, just put a couple of pins in it for now, because that's where we want it. And so here you can see I have basted this down, so it's considered kosher to just come here and take some of the basting out for now, because you don't want the facing to overlap the pocket. Pocket can overlap the facing, but not the other way around. So I'll pin that there, and I will meet you back at the work table. You can see here, the overlap is settled for now. Now we want to address the underlap. So here's our zipper, and this is our zipper shield. So the first thing we want to do is construct the zipper shield. So we're going to fold that, match these cut edges, like so. Now I will go over to the machine and sew a 5/8 of an inch seam, give it a little press, and bring it back here. So there we have the 5/8 of an inch seam. So the trimming is fairly quick and fairly easy. First, I like to cut that on an angle. And then again, I do love the pinked rotary cutter blade. It makes it easier to trim this. It makes it easier to turn. So what that's going to look like is like so. Next, to the pressing table. This is where the point presser comes in very handy. You can get this down to where the curve starts, and it's easier to press this seam open before we turn this right side out. I don't understand the physics of it. I just know that it works. So there's that. And from here, we want to turn this all right side out. This is where point turner, point presser comes in handy. And so I like to run the rounded edge first along this curve, and then use the point to get this corner nice and crisp. So then from here, now that we have this turned right side out, it's a matter of pressing. So first, a little steam to coax it into shape. And if this were an actual garment, I would be using a pressing cloth, but this is not. This is a sample. So there we have. This is the fly facing. So what I will do next is go over to the machine and stitch a top stitch, about 3/16 to 1/4 of an inch from this long edge here. And I will meet you back at the work table. So here is the zipper shield ready for installation. Now, where that's going to land is here. But what we need to do first is to install the zipper. So we have the zipper and we have the underlap, and there is the clip. Now, what we need to do first is press this back and then pin the zipper. So let's go to the pressing table to do that. So I'm going to stop here and check in and see if there are any questions.
Where do you find zippers that have that stop in them?
You know, if you're buying zippers, because I'm here in New York City, and there's a place I go to called Sill Thread, and any zipper, if they're going to sell it, it's going to be either a trouser zipper or a skirt zipper. So they're readily available. They may not look exactly like this particular zipper, because this zipper is a vintage zipper, because good luck trying to find zippers like that are like one color through the whole thing. But if you're ordering, you want to order a trouser zipper, and it will have that locking mechanism on it or something like it.
Warwick
Yeah.
sells trouser zippers, and they're inexpensive.
Yeah. So
Thank you.
yeah, so there are different places to get them. But because see, part of the reason I'm very specific about getting a trouser zipper is I made excuse me, a pair of jeans once, and the zipper I used, because it was what I had on hand, was not a trouser zipper. And what I finally ended up doing is giving the jeans away to the Goodwill, because I could never keep that zipper up, which is deeply embarrassing. Okay, so other questions? Okay.
Does it matter what material the coils are made out of? Metal versus polyester coils?
I prefer a metal zipper. And when we get to the shortening of the zipper, you'll see why. Um, the other thing about the nylon zippers, depending on who makes them, some are stronger than others. And so it's for me, it's just it's a strength issue. That's why I like the metal zippers. And also when you shorten them, I'm going to show you how to clip the teeth off of the tape so that you can shorten the zipper and it doesn't look like anything's been done.
Is
Okay.
there a particular brand you prefer over others?
I like YKK zippers. YKK is it's a Japanese brand, as I understand. They were the ones when the zipper patents expired. There is a book if you want to have a fascinating read. There's a book called Zipper: An Exploration in Novelty. It is about the invention and evolution of the zipper. It's a fascinating read. But the Talon Corporation owned the patents for a good long time. But when they expired, YKK got into the game. And these days, to my way of thinking, they are the best.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So, other questions? Oh,
May
okay,
I ask a question about the interfacing?
sure. Yeah.
My apologies if you've covered this already, but is there a particular type of interfacing you prefer?
Well, what you're seeing on this is what's called a fusible weft.
I thought so.
Yeah.
Is that because of the type of fabric that you're using, or do you prefer that over other types of interfacing for trouser zippers in general?
What I would do is, I experimented with this particular fabric and I liked the heft that interfacing gave for the fly front. If I'm not using a fusible weft, I like a fusible tricot. And there is one, actually, she's sending it to me. I had to order some for this doll project book. Um, Gorgeous Fabrics has a fusible tricot that is extremely sheer. It's almost like nylon stocking weight. So you can kind of gauge, depending on the fabric that you're working with, how heavy or how light you want that fusible.
So you're using it primarily to prevent stretching.
Yes. Prevent stretching, and especially on the fly front, you want a little bit of structure because you don't want the thing to end up, when you're wearing it, you don't want that fly front to end up looking like an unmade bed.
Okay.
Okay. So, other
Thank
questions?
you.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
And I'm just thinking while you were getting your pieces together, you showed us the fly facing
Yes.
and you showed us the zipper the
Shield.
zipper shield.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Is the fly? What is considered the fly?
The fly is the part that it's where the facing and the front that covers the zipper, that is called the fly. And you have fly.
On the front of the trouser,
Yeah,
on the trouser itself.
well, no, just the area where the zipper is installed, because you can have
I
fly
see.
fronts.
Okay.
You can have fly fronts with buttons. You can have fly fronts on jackets as well. So it's a technical term. It's a panel that kind of sits and conceals either buttons or zippers in a garment.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So, other questions? Okay, then back to work. So here we are. There's our clip. So we want to press this back. And it certainly doesn't hurt to use a piece of cardboard for this. Press this back 1/4 inch. You could even go 3/8 of an inch, but you want it even. There, that is, we press that back. Let me zoom in so you can get a better look. So I pin this sort of in 2 stages. So here, that's where the clip lands. So the first thing is we want the slide facing up, zipper facing up. So I'm going to pin it, and I'll zoom in a moment when I get a couple pins in here. I pin it so that the folded edge of the fabric is about 1/8 of an inch away from the teeth on the zipper. Sorry about my big head influencing the so you can get a better look focus at that. Here. So yes, we want the teeth. You don't want it too close to the teeth because it could catch. So I'm going to go off camera and pin this and then bring it back and show you the results. So here I have the zipper pinned to the underlap side. I'm going to stop here for a moment because one of the questions was metal versus nylon coil. This is something, when I teach this at FIT, you want to make sure, of course, I'm stating the obvious, but there's a reason for this, that the pull of the zipper faces out. What I find with the students sometimes is they get the pull in backwards. So the pull is facing to the inside of the garment. And the thing about, if you're working with a metal zipper, because I remember a student brought her finished fly front to me in tears, and she had put the zipper in backwards. And so she was thinking, oh my God, I'm going to have to take this whole thing out. And I said, oh no, young lady, let me show you how to fix that. And so what we did, and you're going to see this more when we shorten the zipper, is I zipped the zip down a little ways. Well, yeah. And then took the, there are 2 stops. I lifted those off of the tape, and then I pulled the zipper slide off the tape and turned the whole thing around so that the pull was facing the correct direction. And then I fed the slide back onto the zipper. So I didn't have to actually take the zipper out to reverse it. I just reversed this slide so it was facing the proper direction, and then slid it down. And you would have thought that I had invented the wheel. So that's another thing that argues using a metal zipper as opposed to a nylon zipper. So now another kind of getting in the weeds thing here. I had a friend who had a pair of trousers, and the bottom stop came loose and the zipper came loose up to here. And so what I did is I just, again, popped the 2 stops off and took the zipper off, and I brought the zipper down and I fed it through the opening at the bottom like a separating zipper. And I was able to work it up through the opening to get it up to about here. And then I took needle and thread and stitched across there. So having a metal zipper, it's stronger, and you're more able to solve the problems that you might run into in construction. So I just kind of wanted to give that little riff right in here. So back to work. Now, this is where I bring in the zipper shield. So now what I want to do, I'm going to turn this over. You want the folded edge of the zipper shield, just bring that in a little bit here. You want the folded edge of the zipper shield to cover the tape. So if this overlaps by about 1/2 inch, that's all good. And then I unpin and repin, and I work all the way down. Let's make sure, okay, there we are, yeah. So really, we're pinning through all the layers now. And I'll bring this here. And then the one on the end. So this is all pinned. And then, see, on the other side, you really don't want to see the zipper tape if you can avoid it. So now let's go over to the machine to sew this. So here we are. And aren't you glad this tab is all the way up? It's out of the way. It doesn't cause you any trouble. It's going to make it easier to sew this zipper in. So I'm going to start right and standard 2.5 stitch, and you use your zipper foot, obviously. That's what I'm using here. And you want to sew about a 1/16 of an inch away from the folded edge. You're sewing through all the layers. Okay, so I'm going to stop stitching at the clip. Just trim these threads. I'll zoom out a little to show you the result. So there is what it looks like from here. And you've sewn through from the back. So we have the underlap, we have the overlap. Now we want to put the parts together. So back to the work table. Here is the underlap. Here is the overlap. So my first thing I like to do is trim the tapes. We don't really need this below the stop. So you just get rid of that so you don't have to worry about it later. Now, what I like to do, because what we want to do ultimately is sew the fly facing and secure all of this before we sew the crotch seam. So what I want to do is there we are. We have this here and this. So we match these up. We overlap the folded edge of the overlap by 1/4 of an inch. And then pin through all the layers. You could baste if you wanted. That would make it a little easier. But I do this with pinning because I've done this a while. And so that makes it so that you know that the zipper will hide in the finished product. From here, turn this over, and you want to get the zipper shield out of the way. Because to tell you where we're going to be sewing the other zipper tape to the fly facing. So we don't want to catch any of this. And so what we're going to do now, turn this right side up so you can get a better sense. So the zipper shield is out of the way. As I said, we pinned so that this folded edge is 1/4 of an inch past the zipper, so it will hide. And so now what we want to do is we want to pin, remove these pins here, and pin just through the fly facing, not through all the layers, just the fly facing. As you can see, just through the fly facing, not through the entire piece. So this now sets us up to go back to the machine to sew the other zipper tape to the fly facing. Here we are. Now I've changed the pins to point in the opposite direction. So it'll be easier to sew. Now I'm going to shifting the zipper foot to the right of the needle. So the first stitch is going to go close to the teeth. And again, we're just sewing through Just the fly facing and the zipper tape, nothing else. Okay. Show you the results of that. For a moment. Trim my threads. And so then I also like to just sew another row of stitching on the edge of the tape, just hold it flat. This is more just to pretty it up than anything. And so I shifted the zipper foot to the opposite side of the needle. Here we are. Threads. So now let's turn this right side up and turn it around so you get a good sense of what it looks like. So yeah, here we are. We've sewn the zipper tape, the other side of the zipper, just to the fly facing, not through anything else. Now, again, back to the work table. So I'm going to stop here to see if everyone's following. Are we good?
Yes. Can I ask you about, are there rules, men and women, on which side is the overlap or which side is the underlap?
Well, the general rule, as my mother would teach me, women are always right.
And that is true.
Yes. And so, and it is true as far as overlaps. And if you notice on your jackets, for the ladies, the right laps over the left. The men, the left laps over the right. If you look at jeans, especially, because they're all made in the same factory, they generally go with the left overlapping the right. But if you prefer to have the ladies are always right overlap, then I fully endorse that.
Okay, thank you. Yes, because I just looked down at my jeans and it was left over right, and I'm going, that can't be, why is it like that?
That's because they're making everything assuming, left over.
Yes, sure. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so other questions? Okay, then we will continue. So here we are back from the sewing machine, and I have sewn the other tape to the fly facing. Now, before we secure the fly facing for its final resting place, we want to sew the two parts together at the crotch seam. So the first step here is going to be unpinning that. And then when I turn this over here, we want to unpin these. Like so. Next, we want to put right sides together. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to match these notches, and we're going to stitch. I'll make a mark in a moment. We're not going to stitch all the way down to here. We're going to stitch about halfway down. But what we want to do is first, zoom in a little bit here. You can see we have pinned these two together. Now I want to clip this at an angle so that we don't catch the fly facing in when we sew this seam. So I'm going to clip that like so. And I'm going to turn this back. You really don't want to catch that when you sew the seam. That will take care of itself later. So to recap, I've clipped to the end of the stitching here, the fly facing, and I'm folding back the zipper shield to keep it out of the way for the next step. And there we are. So it's all pinned. Now I'm going to go get some chalk. I'm going to mark where we're going to start the stitching and where we're going to stop the stitching. So I will be right back. We'll start the stitching here. We'll end the stitching right about there. Now that we have these 2 points marked, we'll go to the machine. So here we are at the machine. So we're going to start the stitching right there. And you notice I have my zipper foot on and I have it set so that the foot sits to the left of the needle. So we're going to bring everything in here and sew at a 5/8 inch seam down to there and back tack. What it will look like is, come in here, move this over slightly and zoom in slightly so you can see. We're going to go right there, right at, and basically this is pretty much at the clip, maybe about 1/8 of an inch above. And I'd like to shorten the stitch on that to like 1.0 so you don't have to back tack. And once we've gone down a little bit, sew the 5/8. Now, take this out of the machine this way. So you can see the stitching started right about there, pretty much where the clip is, and traveled down. So I will go give this a little press and meet you back at the work table. We're back from the pressing table. Now I can remove this because see, that is going to cover the end of the zipper later. That's why I trimmed the tape down so much. So at this point, what we want to do is we want to open this out because we want the zipper shield to land where it needs to land. And so I'm going to pin around this edge here. You want that to sew. This is kind of the last thing except for that seam. So if we turn it this way, you can see it's starting to look like a fly front. So again, now that we have the facing pinned, we're going to fold this back to keep that out of the way for the next step, which is going to be marking the stitching line. Now, honestly, the easiest way to mark your stitching line is with the thread based. That way you can take it out later. You know exactly where you want this to be. You don't necessarily have to stitch directly on the thread base. You can stitch maybe an 1/8 of an inch outside of it. But this is so much easier than trying to put chalk on there or other marking. It also does the dual duty. It bastes everything together and it gives you your mark. So Some people don't like to baste. I do. Okay. So that's what it looks like from this side. That's what it looks like from this side. So now we're going to go over to the machine and sew. So bringing this under the machine, make sure everything else is out of the way before you start sewing. Stitch length on this, it's a top stitch. So you want it to be, say 3.5 or 4. You could use a top stitching thread if you have some. You could thread 2 threads into the needle to give it more visibility. But really, it's a top stitch. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to follow. Notice I'm going ever so slightly outside this basting. It's going to make it a little easier to remove the basting if you don't sew through it. And then back tack. It's out of the machine. Have a look. There you have it. Now, I will remove the basting, give it a little press, and I will meet you back at the work table. And here we are. Now, finishing the seam allowances below and stitching this down so that it covers the end of the zipper, that's something we'll do later after we've sewn the fronts to the back. But let me turn it over so you can see what we've achieved here. We have a fly front. You can see the top stitching. As you can see, the zipper works beautifully. And so the final step is going to be shortening the zipper. Okay, so now we want to shorten the top of the zipper. So I like to measure, for a 5/8 inch seam, you could do 3/4 to 7/8. I'm going to do 7/8. It's just going to give you a little more room. I'll put a pin there, and then you can bring this up and put another pin on the opposite side so that you have, okay, these are where you want to shorten the zipper to. Now the next step, this is the top of the zipper, there's what's called a stop. It's a little U-shaped piece of metal that stops the slide from coming off the zipper. So you take a little pair of, these are called diagonal cutters. You can get them at your local hardware store. And you just want to open up, it's a U-shaped piece. You just want to open it up. And oh, there we are. See, if you open it up, it lifts off. There it is. And set that aside. You're going to be needing that. And same on this one. Same thing. You want to open that up and set it aside. Now, if you end up losing these, you can make a thread bar where the stop is. That's quite all right. But it's good to be correct. Now, you can use a wire cutter. This is a cutter for piano wire. You can see, for music wire, it says. And what I like about this is that you have a little more leverage. So what you're wanting to do is you want to cut off the teeth and try not to cut through the tape. And that's why I like this particular cutter. You have a little more leverage. You have a little more finesse. But if you don't have this, you could use any other wire cutter. And don't try taking too many off at a time. So you kind of sneak up on it. Okay, here we are. So there, we have removed the teeth down to the pin. So this is where you're going to take one of your stops and set it on like so, and a little needle nose plier. And you just clamp it back down. So you have one stop done. And let's go ahead and remove the other. Tools, the right tool for the job. These piano wire cutters are not inexpensive these days. I got lucky. Someone gave me this one. So, okay, onto there. Now you can check just to make sure that both of these are level by zipping these up. And I think they're going to be pretty close. Yeah, pretty darn close. So I'll put the stop here. Set that on like so. And again, with the needle nose pliers, you want to make sure that sits right up next to the last tooth that it sits next to. And so, yeah, there you have it. So that is how you shorten a zipper. I prefer to shorten it from the top rather than the bottom. And then, really, that's done its job. And that's done its job. So let's have a look at our finished product. So here we have it, the finished fly front zipper. Now I'm going to turn it over on the back. As you can see, we have the zipper facing, or the zipper's shield, I'm sorry. And under here is the zipper facing, and you can see the zipper itself. So now let me demonstrate how smoothly it operates, because it's just a joy to work with. See, there you have it. From here, we will begin to construct the fronts to the backs. Okay. How's everyone doing?
Fine. Can I talk to you about lining? If, I can't wear wool next to my skin, so it has to be lined. So, I mean, that all can be done, and the lining can be put on top of it, right?
Do that, or you could actually put the lining, have the lining catch into that whole assembly. You could do it one way or the other.
What do you mean? And put the lining on before you put the zipper in?
No, actually, if you're going to be sewing a full lining, you could actually hand finish the lining onto this. That would probably be the easiest way to do it. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
And then usually at the bottom of the zipper, there's usually some kind of sewing. You're going to sew that later?
Later.
Okay.
Yeah. Because see, what I like to do after I've sewn because when we sew the front to the back, I like to do the finish on the crotch seam. Then I'll go back as kind of the finishing. There's going to be a little bar tack at the base to stabilize everything.
Okay. And then, so you're not going to line these pair of pants, correct? And so what is your preferred allowance finishing, seam finishing then?
I use overlock.
Do you?
I make trousers. Yeah. This is when I was doing some research. I came into a couple of pairs of bespoke trousers that were like, and they used the overlock. I was kind of surprised. But
Wow.
and this is something I learned from my friend Susan Calgi. There are times that they do finishes that you think, huh, because it's flat. And so putting a binding on that edge, it could read through when you press. Um, so yeah, I use an overlock. I just like it better.
Okay.
Okay. So questions, other questions. Yes, go ahead, Ruth.
Hi. Yeah, it was nice to see how you shortened the zipper from the top. I would never have thought of doing that.
Yes.
The zipper I've got today was very limited selection and it's too long. So now that's great.
Yeah, I always tend to buy zippers longer than I need because then when you're putting in, you can run that slide way the hell out of the way. So you're not get because if you buy the zipper that is the correct length for what you're installing, you've got to dodge around that slide somehow.
Mhm.
And we've all done it. We've all gone like, it just doesn't look quite right. So having a longer zipper and then shortening it later is the way to go.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
The other thing, and this is something that I draw this to your attention because I've seen students do it. When they take the stops off, they zip the zipper off up and then it opens. That's when you have to come in from the bottom and treat it like a separating zipper to get that zipper back together. So, but the other thing about turning the slide the correct way, this student, I felt, I mean, she thought she was going to have, and she had another professor said to her, "You're going to have to take that out." And she said, "I'm going to ask Professor King before I take that out." I said, "That was a smart move on your part. Because let me show you how you fix that." And really, honestly, she did everything but I am not worthy. I am not worthy. I said, I've done that mistake. And it's more difficult, because with this zipper, it's very obvious which is the front, which is the back. But a lot of zippers, they look pretty much the same. So it's easy to get confused. And it's just good to know that, okay, you just pull those little stops off, you turn it, put it back on, and you're good to go. So I tend not to use nylon zippers. Also, you've seen my iron. I can melt nylon zippers with that iron. So for a lot of reasons, I like a metal zipper.
Do you use them as well with skirts, say, even if it's a finer fabric?
Well, if it is, say, a really dressy skirt, I will use an invisible zipper.
Okay.
And I, if you, I'm sure you know this because you've taken other classes. There's there's the one on, if you go to YouTube, it's Threads Magazine, Kenneth King, Invisible Zipper. My friend Lynna Maynard was kind enough to let me demonstrate that for Threads Magazine, and that is bar none the most reliable way of putting in an invisible zipper, because you put in an invisible zipper and you get that weird little crink right at the end of it. Never happens with this method.
Okay.
It's and so in that case, I shorten it from the bottom. But I will use a zipper longer than I need, because instead of buying 6 inches and 4 inches in this, I just buy a 22-inch zipper and chop it down to what I need. So yeah, on dressy skirts, I like an invisible zipper. Now, my friend Susan Calgi and I, we have our conversations, and we all both have our prejudices about these things. Her, excuse me, her argument against an invisible zipper is that they break, but if you a crummy one with a thin coil, it's gonna break. But they have an invisible zipper for upholstery. So if you think about that for just a moment, sofa cushions, where I first came to know it was because I'm always looking at sewing. Call me crazy. I was in a car once and I was looking at the headrest, looking up under, or the headrest. I was looking up under the headrest, and it was like that whole thing was closed with an invisible zipper. And I did a little research, and sure enough, they make big ass coil invisible zippers. And I had a student who was making for a client. She was going to the prom and she wanted a strapless onesie. And of course, I said, I'm sure you've told her that if she has to go to the bathroom, she has to just take her clothes off. He said, yeah. And so it had the corselet inside. And I said, the upholstery weight invisible zipper is what you get to hold everything together, because it's going to be under a lot of stress, because if it's tight enough, if you can breathe, it isn't tight enough. And by golly, it worked like a charm. She was completely secure. So if you're worried about using an invisible zipper, get the upholstery weight. It looks the same, but it will hold and it won't break.
Oh, great. I had no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had to change invisible zippers in dresses and stuff for a couple of friends, and it's torture
Yeah.
taking them out and getting them back in without, on a finished garment. Ugh.
Well, if you first off, of course I'm sure you buy a better zipper than what they put in the dresses. But yeah, if you use the Linda Maynard method to get it back in, it goes in like a dream.
Okay, I will check that out.
Okay, so other questions?
Where did you say you find that method?
Oh, you mean the zippers? Oh, the method.
Uh-huh.
If you go on YouTube and just put in Threads Magazine, Kenneth King Invisible Zipper, it will come up.
Okay.
And it goes, it's funny because I had a student, and I love it when my students have success. It makes me so happy. I had a student, she was going to interview for an internship with this designer, and he had this design on his dress form, and it was this weird, stretchy, unruly knit. He was doing this kind of Rube Goldberg thing to kind of get it together, because he was trying to get an invisible zipper in the back. He was having a lot of trouble with it. And so my student said, I can get that zipper in. And he said, well, who do you think you are? She said, I think I'm someone who can get that invisible zipper in. And he said, okay, smart ass, show me. And she said, and professor, I took a deep breath. I did it. And it worked. And he hired her, not just as an intern, he hired her.
Sweet.
So yeah, she was just thrilled to death. I'm like, see, careers hinge on things like that. So, because the key word in the phrase invisible zipper is invisible. So if you see that little crank at the bottom, it's not invisible anymore. And this method that Linda Maynard has let me show you, perfect. I had a student who was in the intimate apparel class, and this sounds like just a damn torture. The professor wanted them to make a bias dress in charmeuse with an invisible zipper in it. I'm like, oh, beat me now. And she said, it was great. I just did your method and it went in like that. And I was moving on, and all the other girls in class were crying and tearing the seams out and all of this. I said, well, did you tell them? Did you show them? She said, no. I said, that's the correct answer. You knew it. They didn't. There you go. Okay, so, yeah, go ahead.
On the zipper shield.
Yes.
The way you did that, does that not add a fair amount of bulk?
Well, you could, if you wanted to with the shield, you could make it in the pocketing fabric. You don't necessarily have to make it in the wool. So the pocketing fabric would be a lot thinner. With the wool, yeah, it is quite thick, but yeah, you don't necessarily have to use the wool. You can use the pocketing fabric.
Use the pocketing on the back, I guess, and put the wool on the front.
On the shield, because when you close it, when you fasten everything up and zip it up, you're not going to see the shield, because that's going to be on the inside. So
right.
if you need to reduce the bulk, that's a good way of doing that.
I see. Okay.
Okay. So other questions?
Comments. I had made a pullover anorak, which had a metal zipper in the top, and I had to shorten the zipper, and I used other
wire cutters.
I didn't know about the wire cutter. Oh yeah, wire cutter. But it was a struggle over several hours to get maybe 10 teeth off of each side. And the piano wire cutter, I'm going to have to look and find. That's probably worth in talking about time. If it takes a lot less time.
Oh, well, you saw, yeah. Because see,
I've used end cutters to some success. End cutters.
Yeah, but what I like about the piano wire cut. Actually, let me dig it out of my drawer, because it has it's good to see what it looks like. Because it came with a bunch of stuff that someone gave me. Talk about old, but and this is from back in the day. This is all like zipper parts, like slides and teeth and stops and all of this. See, this is what it looks like. So it has this kind of it has a thing here, this, they're hinged here, and then here's the hinge here. And so what it does is it gives you a lot more leverage. And so you're able to really, really squeeze down, and these blades are toughened and come together dead square. So the combination of all of this here, the lever action and the blades, which are, I'm sure they're hardened steel, it's the expensive deluxe option if you can get it. And if maybe if you could start cruising eBay or something, you could find it, but it's well worth it if you're doing any kind of shortening zippers to have it.
Time wise, it would be worth it. So,
see, I'm big about spending for the tool. See, part of it for me, it's a business expense. So, if I can write it off, of course, all of this now, this is all a business expense this year, ladies. For those who missed it, who came in a little later, isn't that cute? And here he is in his little, we'll cover him up for modesty, but yes. But yeah, I can write off my all of these purchases now because it's a business expense.
As he chuckles with glee.
As he chuckles with glee, yes. And I probably told you the premise of it is a red carpet looks. And so, I realized, well, we have to have boy dolls too. And the boy dolls. So I just started because, the red carpet looks are going to take some time, but I figured, you know what? I can get all of the men's clothes taken care of fairly soon because there's going to be a shawl lapel jacket and there's going to be a peak lapel jacket. And then, the different, some of these with cummerbunds, some of them with vests, but the pants are going to be the same for both. The jacket and the trim on the shirt is going to be different. But yeah, it's, how cool is this? I was thinking about it again today. I was like, I get paid to do this. They're paying me money. So it's a good thing. Okay. So other questions?
Yes. All right. I just looked for these wire cutters and they're $450.
Holy cow. Oh, I didn't know they were that.
Holy cow. So a cheaper option, what could use?
Well, the end cutters, like she said, and what those look like, if we're talking about the same thing, they look like this.
That's a big pair. I have a little pair. Yeah.
Big pair, but yeah. And so, you can have, I've not tried these on it because I have the others, but I'm sure you can find this at the hardware store. That's where I got this one. So this would be a less expensive option.
All right. And that you're calling in that an end cutter?
E-N-D? E-N-D, end cutter, because, it brings the two blades together almost, they're almost flat. So yeah, this cuts quite well. Not as good as that, but it's a lot less expensive. So, like I said, the only reason I have one of those things is because someone gave it to me because he didn't know what it was. He knew it was kind of something sewing things. And so, I
had seen you do it before. And I put in a zipper like that and I just made a mess of the zipper and I had to hide it somehow. But, I could not get those teeth out.
Well, if you used an end cutter, if you remember in the video, I showed how to open the stops because it's just what you can do is instead of trying to clip it off parallel to the tape, what you can do is like have one blade on the top of the tooth and hook the bottom blade under one of the little legs that hold the tooth onto the tape. That also works. I've done that before.
Yeah, it opens them right out and they pop right off, slide right off.
So there are different ways of getting there, but again, that's why I like a metal zipper as opposed to a nylon zipper.
Right.
Okay,
All
so
right, I have another thing. Okay, I am
go
not
ahead.
going crazy.
Okay,
You did two pockets last week,
I
but
did.
they were both without you did not, I have no recollection in my mind. I take notes and it's not
Oh,
there.
no,
You
okay,
did not send the video, so that
okay.
all three things.
Well, it
So
actually,
we
because
didn't do it.
okay. Well, so then what I can do is I can send you the video this week, but I can add it on to next week's lesson.
All
So
right.
that
Or I mean, I can look at the video, and if I have questions, that's fine.
yeah, well, I will make sure that that link gets on
All
this
right, but we did
email.
not do it.
Okay,
Please.
fair enough. Yeah.
Yes, he did. I remember both types of pockets, but we only got the video for one type of pocket.
Yeah, I thought I saw him do that pocket. I didn't go back and look at the video, but I
That's,
thought I saw that
well,
pocket.
but the video lives. The video lives. I will send you the video.
Yeah,
You will be,
thank
you
you.
will be all, and so
I saw you cut out the pieces, but
that
that's
could be
it.
it. Yeah. So yeah. So yes, we have the video. Not to worry. I will send
All
the
right,
link with.
problem solved.
Okay. So other questions? Okay, then. Well, I guess our work is done for this evening. Let me turn off the recording because I love to hear the lady say, recording finished. Where is it? How do I turn the, oh, stop recording.